Oh, okay. Just let me know if you can hear me now on YouTube, Facebook. I think I accidentally hit the mute button. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna answer some questions now. So let's go. I'm gonna start on TikTok. Great question here. Are we allowed to go with our phones to show photos as part of the evidence instead of printing it? I would not depend on having your phone. You have limited access. Okay, thank you so much, Sherry. I'm so sorry you didn't hear the what I had to say, but uh, I do post snippets of the lives later on, so you can catch up there. So don't depend on having your phone there. You're actually supposed to turn off your phone during the interviews. So it can be agitating to the officer if you're like pulling out your phone, trying to show photos there. Print the photos and have them print the photos, put them in a nice album, and then carry the photos with you in an album. Also, if the officer wants to keep the photos for the record, then because remember they pass on the file sometimes to the supervisor who then has the final say. And so if you're showing the officer on your phone, if the officer even allows you to go that far, then the officer cannot take that evidence and add it to the file to provide to a supervisor. And so the supervisor will miss out on that additional evidence that you've provided. So always make sure that you're putting everything on paper, printing it, carrying it with you so that you can actually hand it over to the officer. What size of photos do you recommend to print out? 4x6 is fine, just regular photos, 4x6s. Missed biometrics appointment due to waiting for mobile biometrics approval. What to expect? So as long as you contact them and let them know, they may go ahead and reschedule it. Are we allowed to go? Okay, so answer that. Is F1 student visas granted to international students? Yes. Yep. So the F1 student visas are for international students. You have to go to the embassy in your country to get a student visa, or you have to change your status over. Hi there, Maggie. Can I file for my documents immediately after marriage? Yes, but keep in mind, once again, what I just said. Don't be in a rush to file the next day after your marriage if you don't have good supporting evidence of your bona fide marriage, because that will create problems for you in the future. It can create delays, it can create you to be scrutinized and be put through additional fraud screening. PIP was denied due to positive factors not outweighing the negative factors for unlawful entries. Can I retry? So at this time, there is no appeal process for the PIP. And because it is a discretionary type of benefit, you could always I don't know if it would make sense to retry, but it just depends. It's possible to reapply later on, but you'd have to look at whether that makes sense, given the fact that they've already, given you this. If you have new evidence, maybe, or new information that could change that balancing test they did, that might be, but just applying with the same thing may not be the good strategy, the best strategy. What if you make enough as a beneficiary? Do you need a sponsor? Yes. So you can still use your assets, of course. You can show assets, but keep in mind that if you're here, especially if you're here without papers, um, if you have legal employment and you have assets, that may go towards the affidavit of support. But if you're here, say you're working, you're making good money, but you don't have your papers, you cannot use your income for the purpose of the affidavit of support. What both petitioner and beneficiaries are, and what if both petitioners and beneficiaries are unemployed and have a joint sponsor? So the joint sponsor should be enough if both are unemployed. Now, one thing to keep in mind too is when it comes to the affidavit of support, this is a big one. They have now implemented a new rule that gives the officer more discretion to determine whether somebody is going to be a public charge. And so if they see negative factors and those negative factors start to outweigh positive factors, they may very well still try to deny the affidavit of support. So, for example, in this case where there's, the petitioner is unemployed and is unable to show sufficient income, the joint sponsor would be there to help with that. But if they start to see other issues coming up as well, then it could turn into an issue where the officer is hesitant to approve. So, for example, if for example the immigrant, on top of that they took out public benefits in the past, plus the petitioner is unemployed, plus maybe the petitioner is in Section 8 housing, there may be some additional questions that the officer may have, and they can use their discretion, their broad discretion, to then conclude that the immigrant, despite all of this, is likely to become a public charge. So this is another reason why it's very important to be prepared to tackle issues like this, because officers will be looking at other factors. They're going to be looking at the immigrant's education, health, whether the immigrant has debt, if they're owing any kind of debt. They're looking at employment history, age. So whether they're retired or not, what does work look like for them in the future? Is that still a possibility? Household size. So they're still going to be looking at these factors, and they're going to be doing a balancing test. So it does throw some uncertainty into the process, and wherever there is some uncertainty, it's time to prepare for any kind of questions that may come up. And that may be the difference between you succeeding in your process or not. I'm done with my asylum interview on the 3rd of December. I did not get the decision. When will I get a decision? You can go look at the processing times for the I-589. It can be anywhere from a few weeks to even years. Hi, my medical deferred action got approved March 11th. But I haven't received my work permit. So there might be a little lag. Check to make sure they're processing your work permit. Another thing is when you've submitted deferred action, there is a box that says, do you want employment authorization upon approval of the medical deferred action? And you must pay a fee. So if you do yes, you must pay a fee. If you didn't pay the fee, they're not going to process employment authorization. So just make sure you're checking on that to see, make sure you've paid fees for employment authorization. I have a master hearing court, so we need a lawyer to go. You can give us a call and talk to us about your situation. We would need many months in advance, or at least a few months in advance, to make sure we can figure out logistics there and prepare for it. How long does it take to get your green card? Me and my husband had our interview last year. So it can range. So we've had approvals on the spot, and then we've had a few cases that have gone even over a year and still waiting for approval. So it just it depends. Thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Whenever you're tapping that screen, it means that you're also helping other people to see this live. And when they see this live, they get information that can empower them and access to talk to, ask questions directly of an attorney who is here. While I can't give personalized legal advice, this information is helpful. Helps people to decide what direction they need to go in. All right, so I'm on Instagram right now. Put your questions in the comments. Can I use psychological evaluation and prescription medications for VAWA? Also, can I use the I-130 approved if I don't have witness letters? So all of that can be useful. So you just have to, but all of that can be useful. It really depends on the facts in your case. But yes, it can be helpful. Uh, Whether or not it makes your case strong is dependent on the facts. Thanks so much for the love on Instagram, by the way. I really appreciate it. I got my case receipt and I did my biometrics appointment. What's next? So if you're going through the marriage-based process, usually, or if you've applied for a work permit, that's what comes next. Um, I just did my biometrics for the T visa. What's next? So it's going to be work permits, bona fide determination that they're going to consider next, and then after that, decision. How about MoneyGram sent to her? So I think we're going back to the marriage-based evidence that we're talking about. So I was just talking about the fact that you may not have a bank account together. You may have, but you may be doing financial things in other ways. And yes, showing that you're sending MoneyGram to your spouse is going to be a substitute for bank statements if you don't commingle your funds. So we don't have any news yet about when the pause will be lifted. But what I say is move forward as usual, to protect yourself. Make sure you're filing your petitions as you normally would, until the pause is lifted. That makes sure you preserve your eligibility. What can be done if marriage-based green card is in active review, but my husband took restraining order on me and left me? Well, in this case, it's urgent. You need to get in touch. You can always give us a call. We want to understand what happened here, and we deal with situations like this all the time. There may be a way for you to take control of the situation by switching your process over to VAWA if this, what happened with the restraining order and the fact that they left you, if that is in regards to mistreatment of you. In many times in these situations, it says the immigrant spouse that is being abused through the legal process. So the spouse may then turn around and take out restraining orders on the person trying to make them, the immigrant spouse, trying to make them look like the bad guy. So we need to talk to you more to just figure out if this process will be right for you. It's urgent at this point to make sure you get on it. Okay, so I'm on YouTube and Facebook. I don't see any questions on here. So I'm just gonna go right back to Instagram. Let's see if we have any more questions here. Okay, good day. Can you elaborate on the green card holders that can petition for their unmarried children under 21 and spouses of green card holders? So there's not much to elaborate on except do it now. There's no wait list right now. So if you have a child who's under 21 and unmarried, they're here in the US, then you need to file it now. Um, that can change later this month. That can change next month. So file it now. This is mainly for those who are here already. If you're the spouse of a green card holder, or you're the son or daughter under 21 of a green card holder, you're here in the US, say you're visiting right now, and you've now seen that the priority date has become current, then you can go ahead and submit everything together. Or if you have a pending I-130, you can file the I-485 adjustment of status application now in order to allow your relative to stay here and get their green card while being here. So they don't have to go back to their country, they can do it here. This is where it's very important to consult an attorney to make sure you're doing it correctly, though. Would they have to be in legal status? So if the relative is petitioning for them, they have to be in legal status. If it's VAWA, so they're applying for VAWA based on mistreatment by a relative, then they don't have to be in legal status. So it just depends. And this is where it's very important to consult an attorney. You can always give us a call, schedule time. My schedule is filling up, guys, and so it's important to get on it right now because it's it's getting full. How long does it take to get work permits after biometrics for the T visa case? So it really varies. Okay, so I'm gonna come back onto TikTok, and I'm answering a few here, and then I'm gonna head out so I can go on to other appointments. So let's see. Thanks so much for sharing the live, for the love you've provided. This does mean that other people get to. Is it still 250? Yes, it's 250 for the strategy session. My case was granted recently, but DHS filed appeal. How long it takes? So it just depends. It depends on what case type it is. It's not a one size fits all. I had a naturalization interview 120 days ago. No update. I get in touch with them and just let them know it's been 4 months and see what's going on with the case. Can I file for my documents immediately after marriage? You can, but you need to make sure you have a strong application. I've applied for my green card. I got 200 days, but until now, I didn't receive any response yet. That's not out of the ordinary. Did you not receive a receipt notice? I guess check with the immigration on that because you've already filed it. So, it's just a matter of following up basically. All right, that's going to be it for me. Thanks again, guys. Hi there, New Beginnings makeup artist. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks for joining. I will be back hopefully tomorrow. But what I like to say is like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell. That is what will allow you to see when I'm live. You can hop on and join me if you're available and ask your questions. But nothing is going to be better than making sure you're scheduling time to speak with me or my team members about your case to get started. Listening to the live is one thing, but taking action is what's going to get you to success, right? And here at ST Law Office, we work on cases that many of the cases that where my clients have succeeded, I would say a majority, those clients contacted me not knowing whether it would work for them, not having that hope. And at the end of even just a consultation, having the hope knowing there's a way, and then acting with urgency and getting it done. They're happy now, right? Even with all this chaos going on, they know that they have the tools that they need to get protection and move forward here and build a life here in the US. That's what I do here. I solve problems. Me and my team, we solve problems here to get people to success. And it is available through the law. So get in touch with us. Let's ask you the questions that other attorneys don't usually ask to see if you can qualify for one of these processes as well. All right. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.